What is up, guys? Benkai back again with another video. Death Battle just announced their next matchup, and it's going to be Izuku Midoriya Deku from My Hero Academia versus Miles Morales from the Spider-Man games, comic books, etc. I thought it'd be cool to give my 2 cents on who I think is going to win, but then it occurred to me, I don't know too much about Miles Morales. I played the games, but as far as comic books go, I'm not familiar with his feats, so I figured who can lend a hand, who can help me out with deciding who the winner is going to be. My answer came to not a who, but a what, ChatGPT. And so basically I took all their feats, all their stats. ChatGPT did a full research on both characters across the manga, anime, comic books, games, and it put in all their different feats, stats, abilities, etc., right? And pretty much it's gonna go like this. This is the video. We're gonna break down Deku's abilities, feats, and all that stuff. And then we're gonna break down Miles' feats and abilities. And then ChatGPT created probably one of the best fight simulations I've ever read. I was on the edge of my seat just reading from my phone. I was like, dude, what's gonna happen next? I did not know who was gonna come out the winner of this battle until I finished reading. I was like, oh my God, that is insane. It goes into so much detail. I'm gonna be reading it off my phone because I have to give you guys every single juicy detail that it spat out in this fight sim. It's amazing, it's super cool. And then after that, it's going to explain why it decided the winner and how it came to that verdict of who came out on top during this fight. Who do you think would win in a fight? Miles Morales or Izuku Midoriya Deku from My Hero Academia? But without further ado, let's jump straight into Deku's feats and then so on and so forth until the rest of the video. First up, Deku from My Hero. He's the biggest superhero fanboy turned actual superhero. He started quirkless, but then got handed the keys to one of the most busted quirks in his universe. We're talking Deku at his peak. Think season 7, upcoming 8, and end of the manga. He's not just a one-trick specialist anymore. He's got a bunch of quirks at his disposal, and it lets him stockpile an insane amount of strength and speed. He's unlocked abilities from all the previous users, so he's got a big toolbox to use against Miles Morales in this fight. First, let's talk about his strength and speed. His base power lets him hit like a freight train at 100% output. He's comparable to All Might, city block smashing punches and all. He can't sustain that without breaking his limbs, so that is a drawback. But with the skill and support gear he's gotten, he can fight a little easier at lesser percentages like 30 to 45% without turning his bones into jelly. And whenever he's in a pinch, he can usually push beyond that 45% and push it beyond 100%. So he's got the adrenaline pumping and he can deliver massive strikes. One of his first quirks is Danger Sense. It's basically Spider Sense, right? This quirk warns Deku of incoming danger or malicious intent with a sharp pain in his head. If you try and sneak attack him, a mental alarm goes off. Super useful against an opponent who likes to vanish, kind of like Miles does. But one catch, it only works on hostility. Friendly surprise hugs won't trigger it, as Toga demonstrated by lovingly coming in and bypassing it. Deku's Danger Sense didn't go off, so keep that in mind. Miles, since it is a fight, I'm assuming there's going to be hostility, so just keep that in mind. Next up on the roster, Blackwhip. Deku has energy tendrils that sling out of his body. Think dark, crackling whips he uses to grab things, yank himself around like Spider-Man, or tie up enemies. It's versatile. He can swing through cityscapes or snatch villains running away. Fun fact, Deku has used Blackwhip to wrap around his bones and muscle fibers in order to puppeteer his body when immobilized from different enemies. So that's pretty cool. Dude's psychotic when it comes to that. And it's just really, really cool to see. If you've seen the anime, you know what I'm talking about. Fun fact, Deku is loosely based on Spider-Man. Horikoshi has stated Spider-Man is one of his favorite heroes, and he tried to recreate that with Deku in some capacity. So that's really, really cool. Next up, we got Fa Jin. This quirk lets him store kinetic energy by repeating movements and then releasing it in an explosive burst. Imagine charging up by doing a quick squat and then boom, you spring forward with double the power. Deku combines Fa Jin with his base strength to do things like faux 100% moves, hitting as hard as full power smashes are allowing him to without actually destroying himself. It's like he's got a temporary overdrive on tap. Next up, we have Smokescreen. He can make a thick purple smoke that can hide him and obscure his presence on the battlefield. So it's really cool because it can confuse enemies, especially if they're getting close or they have sensory skills that you can throw off by not being in line of sight. So that's a good versatile thing to have. Up next, we have Float, borrowed from Nana Shimura. This gives Deku the power of flight or levitation. He can maneuver in air while using his Air Force ability, flicking his fingers and generating force that propels him forward. And by the time the War Arc comes around, we see him zipping around using Float combined with Blackwhip to outmaneuver enemies. He's versatile with combining his quirks. At peak power, he eventually unlocks his last quirk called Gear Shift. This lets him alter the velocity of objects, including himself and others, giving him bursts of speed that defy normal limits. In the final battle, he used it to push One For All to 120%, delivering rapid fire smashes at blistering speeds. It's definitely an ace in the hole that can catch opponents off guard, because suddenly this guy who is already pretty fast goes ultra instinct for a moment and is almost untouchable, right? On top of all of these powers, Deku's greatest strength might be his strategic mind. This kid studied heroes for fun and took copious notes on their quirks and abilities and tactics. He's super analytical, capable of forming complex battle plans in seconds in the heat of a fight. We've seen him do this plenty of times, right? He's always muttering to himself whenever he's speaking or analyzing an opponent. Deku's tactical thinking means he's quick to adapt. If something isn't working, he'll switch up styles or combo his quirks in a new way on the fly. And he has the heart of a true hero, which in anime terms means infinite willpower. So he has that attitude, right? He's broken his arms, fingers, every bone at some point, all in the name of victory. These days, he's learned to be smarter about self-damage, but if push comes to shove, Deku will 100% sacrifice an arm or a leg if it means securing the win. Pain tolerance, off the charts. Determination, immeasurable. To sum up Deku, he's got super strength, super speed, and extra quirks, giving him versatility, battle instincts, and high pain tolerance. At peak form, he's a one-man army taking on Shigaraki, the big bad of the whole anime, and other villains that should outclass him technically, but because of the way he uses his quirks, he usually finds a way to come out ahead. How does that compare to our challenger from Brooklyn, Miles Morales? Let's dive into his feats and abilities. On the Marvel side of things, we got Miles Morales, the Spider-Man in his universe, and pretty much he's been integrated into the main Marvel universe. Miles is a lot like Peter Parker's Spider-Man, but with some shocking twists. Bitten by a genetically altered spider, Miles has the classic Spider-Man package, plus a few extra powers that even Peter wishes he's had. At his peak in the comics, Miles has gotten some insane upgrades. We're talking some of the best gear and feats, including a special vibranium suit he received, and the wild experiences he's been through, multiverse and all, right? So here's the official breakdown. He's got superhuman strength and agility. Like any Spider-Man, Miles is strong. He can lift cars, toss bad guys through walls, and in Marvel terms, he's listed at around class 10 strength, meaning the strength to press 10 tons. He's not quite as buff, say, like the Hulk, right? But he's easily in the league of bending steel and punching through concrete. His agility and reflexes are likewise off the charts, bullet dodging, flips, and leaps that would make Olympic gymnasts cry. He sticks to walls and swings on webs. Baseline Miles is every bit Spider-Man. Proportionate strength of a spider, super reflexes, enhanced durability to survive impacts that would splatter normal folks, etc. And yes, he does have a version of the spider sense, often called Spidey Sense. It warns him of danger, though in Miles' case, it's not as honed as Peter Parker's. It works well enough to usually keep him from being ambushed, but it has its limits and can be tricked or overwhelmed. Fun fact, it didn't trigger when a friend like Miss Marvel snuck up on him casually, similar to how Deku's danger sense needs intent, and when Toga snuck up on him, he didn't see her either, so it's not foolproof. Next up, we have his infamous Venom Blast. This is his signature move that sets him apart from other Spideys. Venom Blast is a bioelectric shock he can generate on contact. When Miles touches an enemy, he can deliver a powerful electric burst that can paralyze or incapacitate. It's more like a taser hand or Emperor Palpatine lightning channeled through touch. This is proven effective in the comics. He's taken down foes far above his weight class thanks to zapping their nervous system. Miles was able to knock out a hulking version of Green Goblin in his universe by delivering a Venom Blast to the villain's face. Goblin, who can tank regular punches, got stunned and dropped because Miles' Venom Blast hits different. He's even used it on giant monsters and symbiote creatures to great effect. There's an instance where he unleashed a Mega Venom Blast to disable a gigantic symbiote being during the fight with the evil symbiote god Null's forces. It worked, but it drained Miles to the point of passing out. So he can amp this ability up to AoE levels when pushed. Generally, a single Venom Zap can floor most enemies if it connects, giving Miles a huge tactical advantage. Imagine getting electroshocked mid-fight. Your muscles freeze, you're disoriented, not good if you rely on mobility and physical combat. Next up is Spider Camouflage. We've seen this in the games a lot, right? It's another unique power that he has. He can turn invisible and just perfectly camouflage himself along with his clothing. He can blend into his surroundings, predator style, making him invisible to the naked eye. This is an enormous edge for setting up ambushes or escaping in battle. Miles can disappear from sight, reposition for a good sneak attack, or dodge an enemy's notice. It's not something most opponents see coming. If an enemy has some way of detecting heat, sound, or in Deku's case, danger sense, they can still anticipate him, but visually, Miles can be a ghost. He's used this to get the drop on plenty of bad guys. It really complements his agility and stealth skills. Web shooters, right? What Spider-Man doesn't have? Web shooters, they're usually super high tech. He gets them from Aunt May, or S.H.I.E.L.D. usually develops them, right? And he can use these to immobilize targets, web up, swing, and all that stuff. By peak, he's had upgrades, including vibranium-laced webbing with his new suit. Vibranium webbing means it's more durable and conductive. So imagine webs that are super tough and can even channel electricity through it. He's also temporarily used things like Iron Spider armor with extra arms and other gadgets from friends, but his current defining tech is the vibranium Spider-Man suit. Let's talk about that. In recent comic storylines, Miles gets a huge gear upgrade, a suit made of vibranium, nearly indestructible. The suit was given by Black Panther as a remedy for a condition Miles had. It's a long story. Basically, he was temporarily turned into a vampire. The suit helps regulate his powers and cures the vampirism. For our purposes, what matters is that vibranium costume makes Miles way more durable and enhances his abilities. The suit is woven from a vibranium nano mesh with an insulated lining. It regulates his bioelectric venom power so he can use the Venom Blast more freely without exhausting himself as quickly as he usually does. It protects him from the most fatal of injuries. Vibranium is super tough, meaning bullets, blades, and even some explosions won't easily penetrate it. Now, it's not full Black Panther suit. They had to keep it light so Miles can maintain agility, can absorb and redistributes kinetic energy, right? It's a known trait of vibranium. So if Deku smashes him, the suit will take a lot of the impact. It won't make Miles completely invulnerable. A big enough hit will still rattle him inside of the suit, right? So if he gets whacked by a powerhouse, it's still gonna hurt. Even if the armor doesn't crack, he's still gonna feel it. But it significantly raises Miles' durability, meaning he can survive attacks that would have splattered his earlier self if he did not have the suit. It comes with upgraded web shooters, and it gives him stronger webs for combat. All in all, this suit is a game changer for Miles. He can fight longer, hit harder, and take hits better. You know, it enhances him. So experience and feats. Let's not forget Miles. Miles may be young, but he's been through a lot. He's had multiversal adventures, teamed up with Spider-Man heroes in the Spider-Verse event, fighting vampiric beings called the Inheritors who prey on spider people. That means Miles has fought alongside and against superpowered beings from across realities. He's also lived through the end of his universe. During Marvel's Secret Wars, Miles survived the destruction of the Ultimate Universe and helped in the final battle against God Emperor Doom. In terms of villains, Miles had tangled with Dark Carnage, an extreme symbiote threat, Roxxon's mutants, you name it. He's even stunned Dr. Doom with an energy burst and punched him out in an unexpected turn. Doom is a top-tier Marvel villain. Miles' combat experience spans street-level crime to universe-ending crises. He's led teams, made tough calls, and learned from veterans like Peter Parker and Captain America. He's used to improvising and exploiting his unique powers to win. He's clever, and he has that Spider-Man ingenuity in battle, making jokes and quips which can throw opponents off psychologically. In summary, Miles Morales is a stealthy, fast, hard-hitting combatant with the vibranium suit and his own powers. He's got tools to deal damage, such as his Venom Blast, and to invade and confuse, like his Camouflage, and to restrain or control the fight's pace with his webbing. His physical stats, strength, and speed are high level, if not quite on the absurd anime level of someone like All Might, but he compensates with versatility and smarts. Don't underestimate him just because he's a quippy teenager. He's taken down big threats and lived to tell the tale. Now that we covered all their feats and resumes, it's time to simulate this fight, right? I gave all this info to ChatGPT and I said, all right, let's have Deku and Miles throw down. And what did our friendly AI come up with? Here comes the fight. Get your popcorn because this fight literally had me on the edge of my seat. I'm going to read it straight from my phone so you get the full effect of how this fight went. It was insane. Drop down in the comments who you think is going to win, Miles or Deku. All right, so here's the fight simulation, right? Let's set the scene. An abandoned city street at twilight. Wind blows as Deku and Miles face each other. Both know this is a death battle, so they're not holding back. This breaks into rounds. Round one, feeling each other out. Deku starts in a cautious stance. Full cowl is activated. It's about 45% output. Green lightning crackling all around him. Miles crouches, eyes narrowed behind his mask. With a witty grin, he says, so you're like me. Deku, the serious student, doesn't banter much. He's analyzing. Danger sense hasn't pinged yet. Miles is talking. But Deku knows Spider-Man is fast and tricky. Miles thinks this green-haired kid looks intense. And what's with those black whips coming out of his back? So he's always having the Black Whip tendrils out there just because he always wants to be ready, and it does look pretty intimidating. Suddenly, Miles vanishes. He activates his camouflage, blending into the environment. One moment he was invisible in his black and red suit, and next he's a shimmer and then gone. Deku's eyes widen. He's momentarily taken aback. An opponent that can go invisible? But almost at the same time, danger sense spikes in Deku's mind, tingling. Deku gets that stabbing warning in his head. Miles is on the move with hostile intent. True enough, Miles reappears long enough to shoot a webbing from Deku's right side, attempting a sneak attack to web bind him, hoping to catch Deku off guard from invisibility. Thanks to danger sense, Deku barely twists away. The webs shoot past, sticking to the pavement with a whip crack. No direct hit. Deku counters instantly. Smoke screen. He billows a cloud of smoke to mask his own movements. If Miles wants to play stealthy, Deku can obscure the battlefield too. Now we have a bizarre scene. An invisible Spider-Man and a hidden in smoke Deku both trying to sense each other out. Miles activates his spider sense to track Deku's movements, even if he can't see through smoke. Deku's danger set pings as Miles closes in. The audience, that's us, just sees a big smoke cloud, then sparks of green lightning and flashes of bioelectric venom inside. We hear wham, thwip, smash. Sound of combat goes off. They both burst the cloud, crashing in midair. Miles emerges with a leap, shooting a web line to a street lamp and swinging to gain momentum. Deku leaps up after him using float and Black Whip to slingshot forward. In mid-air, the two meet. Miles tries a Venom Blast Plus right to Deku's chest. Deku instinctively crosses his arm and blocks it. The Venom shot transfers through Deku's guard. You can see electricity dance over Deku's body as he takes the hit. His muscles spasm for a split second. That hurt, but Deku doesn't drop. He counters with a St. Louis smash and a swift kick. Miles' spider sense warns him he controls a mid-swing to avoid the direct blow, but Deku's kick grazes him, skidding on landing. Deku lands too, but staggers. That Venom attack made his limbs tingle. He feels the numbness. Miles capitalizing, quipping, shocking, isn't it? He fires off webs to bind Deku's legs. The webbing wraps around Deku's left leg and arm. Miles tugs, trying to off-balance him. For a moment, Deku is anchored. Miles darts forward and goes for a finish with a point-blank Venom Blast. He aims to grab Deku by the neck and deliver a disabling shot. It's a move that's ended many fights for Miles before. Danger sense screams in Deku's mind. Critical danger. Deku's eyes sharpen. At the last possible second, Deku activates Fa Jin. He had been subtly bouncing on his tied leg, building up energy while Miles closed in. He releases it in one burst, yanking the web and pulling Miles off balance, while simultaneously breaking free. The sudden pull surprises Miles. Instead of landing a clean hit, he stumbles forward. Deku then does something Miles did not expect. He fires a Black Whip tendril, not at Miles, but at himself, specifically wrapping it around his torso and limbs. Miles slaps his hand on the Deku's shoulder, unleashing a Venom Blast, and at that moment, crackle, electricity surges through Deku. Deku's whole body jerks. His muscles scream in pain. For an ordinary fighter, this would be game over. Their body would go limp from the neuro shock. Deku nearly drops, but he's literally puppeteering himself with Black Whip. The black tendrils wrapped around his body tighten and jolt his muscles into action, acting like artificial muscle fibers. With a roar, Deku uses the tendrils to fling himself backward, disengaging from Miles despite the paralysis creeping over him. It's a crazy sight. Deku's basically marionetting his own body, even though the Venom Blast tried to lock it down. Miles is briefly stunned. Did this dude just lasso himself? He blurts out, not expecting his Venom strike to be countered in such an odd way. That moment of surprise cost Miles. Deku, teeth gritted and some smoke coming off his suit, yanks Miles in another Black Whip tendril. Now Deku has a hold of him. Miles finds the Black Whip coiled around his waist. Before he can react, Deku swings him hard into the ground. Boom! Miles eats pavement, but this vibranium suit absorbs a lot of the impact. The street cracks, a small crater forms. Miles groans, but quickly turns his fall into a roll, mitigating damage. Thank you, Wakandan tech. The slam could have broken his bones, but with the suit, he's bruised at worst. Deku isn't letting up. He knows now how dangerous that Venom Blast is, and he's not going to keep on taking another one. He ramps up One For All power higher from 45 to maybe 75 in bursts. Green lightning intensifies around him. Deku uses gear shift on himself for the first time in this fight, pushing his speed to the next level. He zooms towards Miles, the ground crackling under each step. Miles scrambles up, spider sense blaring, incoming. He fires a barrage of webbing, some from a special web shooter that produces an insulated foam, who smashes through the web lines and a sweep of Black Whip coated arm, tearing them aside. They exchange blows at high speed. Miles unleashes rapid kicks and punches and tries to cloak mid-combo to confuse Deku's targeting, but Danger Sense keeps flickering, giving Deku just enough read on where the threat is coming from. Deku blocks a kick, lands a counter punch, bam! Miles reels from the force. Even glancing at a hit from Deku at 75% is like getting hit by a truck. The vibranium suit's mesh strains, dispersing the impact to keep Miles from shattering. Still, Miles is rattled. He coughs. That the best you got? Deku decides to show him something definitely not his best, because his best could level a city block, which he's trying to avoid unleashing fully. Deku leaps high into the air with float, Blackwhip slinging him higher, charging to smash. Miles won't give him the time. He shoots a web up to follow and channels his bioelectricity into the Venom web, a trick he's used to taser opponents at range. The electrical current travels up the web towards Deku, but Deku's prepared. He funnels Fa-Jin into his leg and performs a faux 100% Detroit smash downward. The punch isn't aimed at Miles directly, but at the space in front. It creates a massive shockwave of air pressure. This Air Force blast ripples out, severing the web line and dispersing the incoming Venom charge in a burst of wind. Miles gets caught in the turbulence mid-swing and is flung back down, smacking into the street on his back. His ears ringing from the pressure blast. That hurt, even through the suit. The concussive force was like being inside a ringing bell. Before Miles can fully recover, Deku dives at him at full speed, focusing power into a Delaware smash flick aimed at Miles. A focused air bullet blasts from Deku's finger, nailing Miles and shoving him across the asphalt. Miles tumbles, gasping. He's durable, but he's taking a pummeling. Moving to the final exchange, Miles battered does the one thing that has turned the tides for him before. He starts charging a mega Venom Blast. We see the bioelectric energy crackling around him. This is an energy-wide electric explosion he's used in desperation in the comics. It can be enough to stun even someone as strong as Deku if it hits full force. Deku's danger sense blares and feels life-threatening. If he gets caught in that blast head-on, he might be done. So Deku responds in kind. He gathers every ounce of One For All, cranks it to 100%. His limbs are screaming in protest, but he doesn't care. He also coils Blackwhip around his arm for reinforcement. The ground beneath Deku's feet cracks and crater from the power up. One For All, 100%, he shouts, launching himself like a missile at Miles. Miles unleashes a Mega Venom Blast, a sphere of electrical fury expanding outward. The camera shows a blinding flash as Deku punches into the spear. For a moment, nothing but light and dust, then a silhouette. Deku drives through, connecting with Miles in a massive punch. Detroit smash, he yells. The shockwave and explosion rock the surroundings. The Venom Blast dissipates in the air as Miles is launched backward as if hit by a speeding truck. He crashes through a concrete wall. Boom! When the dust settles, we see Deku kneeling, one arm smoking and limp. That 100% smash clearly wrecked his arm. Meanwhile, Miles lies amidst the rubble, his suit sparking with residual electricity. The vibranium suit is partially torn. Deku's punch actually tore the nanomesh in places. Impressive given his vibranium. Miles tries to move, but he's out cold. That final plus ultra punch combined with pushing through his own massive venom discharge was too much. Miles is down. Deku, panting heavily, cradles his busted arm, saying, "I did it," with a tired smile before collapsing onto his backside to catch his breath. The AI referee declares Deku the winner by knockout. Now that was a fight simulation, guys. That was insane. I know I messed up some of the words reading that. It was just too good to just stop. Let's get into the reasoning why ChatGPT chose Deku as the winner. According to ChatGPT's analysis, Deku wins this matchup. Here's the reasoning. This fight was extremely close and could swing either way with a misstep, but a few key factors gave Deku the definitive edge. This says raw power and strength. Deku simply hits harder than Miles. By the time he's at peak, Deku's strength is on a tier above classic Spider-Man levels. Remember, All Might's power is monstrous. We're talking tornado-creating punches. Deku at 100% can deliver blows far exceeding what Miles typically tanks. Miles' best strength feats, lifting cars, maybe a building chunk with webs, are impressive, but Deku has feats like lifting a multi-ton bus with 30% power and striking with 100% force that can change weather patterns. In the anime, a 100% punch created a massive whirlwind against Overhaul. In a direct contest of physical might, Deku has the advantage. Vibranium suit or not, Miles would not want to get hit clean by a 100% smash. The suit would absorb a lot, but the kinetic force could still knock Miles out, or at least severely daze him. We saw something similar in the fight. Miles survived a few hits thanks to the suit, but each one took a toll. Ultimately, the suit couldn't negate a max power blow. Deku's final smash was beyond what Miles' body and suit could handle, leading to a KO. Speed and reflexes. This one is interesting because both have some form of spider/danger sense and both are superhuman speed levels. Miles has an edge in baseline agility. Spider people are insanely agile and can react to gunfire easily. Deku's speed started lower. Early on he was fast, but not Spider-Man fast. However, by peak, Deku's speed grew significantly with gear shift, Fa-Jin, and just overall one-for-all boost. He can move at supersonic speeds in burst. His reflexes, augmented by danger sense, mean he can respond to Miles' movements quite well. We saw that play out. Miles tried invisibility sneak attacks, but danger sense negated the element of surprise. In pure reflex, one could argue Miles' spider sense is similar to danger sense. They both warn of harm, but Deku's combat speed when revved up let him keep the pace with Miles' acrobatics. When Deku used gear shift and cranked up full cal, he was able to land blows on Miles despite the latter's quickness. Essentially, speed was roughly even, with Deku being slower in normal state but having higher top speed potential when he powered up. Neither had a decisive speed advantage to exploit. They both could react to each other's big moves in time, as we saw with Miles dodging some smashes and Deku dodging Venom strikes. That cancels out, making other factors more important, such as durability and stamina. At first glance, Miles with the vibranium suit seems tougher. He can tank hits that would kill normal people and keep going. And indeed, the suit prevented Deku from one-shotting him early. However, Deku's own durability is not to be underestimated. He's taken beatings from the likes of Shigaraki, who can smash through floors with raw strength and kept fighting. Deku's resilience is partially willpower. He'll fight through the pain until his body literally can't move. The flip side is Deku has a weakness. Overusing his power can injure him. Every time he goes 100%, he risks breaking bones. In a protracted fight, this is dangerous for Deku. If he had whiffed that final smash and broken his arm, Miles could have capitalized. Miles doesn't injure himself using his powers, usually. With a new suit regulating his venom usage, he avoids exhausting himself from Big Venom Blast. But Deku learned to manage his output by only going full power at critical moments in our simulation. He timed it perfectly to end the fight. Deku's pain tolerance and determination are a form of durability. He fought through the paralysis effect of Venom Blast by sheer creative will with the assist from Blackwhip. Not many foes can say they shrugged off a Venom attack. That was a pivotal moment. Miles' trump card, the Venom Strike, did not secure him the win because Deku found a counter. Once Miles realizes his best shot wasn't enough, it tilted the mental game to Deku. In summary, Miles had better protection initially, but Deku's never say die endurance evened it out. And when it came to a war of attrition, Miles started faltering from accumulated damage. The webbing around doesn't help if you're dizzy from heavy blows, whereas Deku could push past his limits one more time to clinch it. Next up, versatility and abilities. Both brought a diverse toolset. Miles had stealth, ranged webs, and bioelectric attacks. Deku had multiple quirks covering mobility, offense, and defense. Deku's wider range of options gave him a slight edge. For example, Smokescreen countered with invisibility, Blackwhip countered webbing, he could grab or tear webs and even fling Miles around with his own web tendril, and Danger Sense countered sneak attacks. Every trick Miles had, Deku had an answer. Invisibility, Danger Sense negates the surprise. Deku can still sense where Miles is coming from. Plus, Deku could use Smokescreen to even the playing field since Miles relies on a bit too. Webbing and long range, Deku's air blast and sheer strength can blow apart webs, or he can dodge with acrobatics. Meanwhile, Blackwhip can do similar jobs. In fact, Deku could even yank Miles out of the air with Blackwhip, as we saw. So Miles couldn't keep distance indefinitely or trap Deku easily. Venom Blast, it's Miles' big gun, but Deku had studied the fight mid-fight and improvised the Blackwhip self-puppeteering to nullify the paralysis. That's huge. If that Venom Blast had completely stunned Deku, Miles would have won right there. But Deku's quick thinking and quirk versatility saved him. It's fair to say not every hero would have an option up their sleeve to keep moving while electrocuted like Deku did. Aerial combat, Deku's float let him meet Miles in the air, preventing Miles from dominating vertical space. Both could fight aerially, so Miles couldn't simply stay out of reach. Miles did have one edge in versatility though. He's used to fighting smarter, not harder. Spider-Man, any version, often wins through clever tactics and exploiting opponents' weaknesses. Miles is clever. He tried mixing invisibility with attacks, tried Venom through conductive webs, etc., but Deku is a tactical savant himself and didn't present obvious exploitable flaws beyond the self-damage issue, which Miles would know about initially. ChatGPT simulation had Miles improvising well, but Deku countering those improvisations with his own. Deku's plethora of quirks essentially allowed him to counter Miles' unique powers, while Miles unfortunately could negate Deku's raw power. He had no answer for a 100% smash besides hoping not to get hit or to dampen it with a suit, which wasn't enough in the end. Combat strategy and mindset. Both are heroic good guys and neither is a killer, but in a death battle scenario, they know it's victory or death, so they'll do what it takes. Deku's mindset is all or nothing. He will sacrifice his body to win. Miles is courageous and will go down swinging, but he won't break his own limbs to gain an advantage. Deku will. That willingness to take self-damage for a one-hit KO is a very dangerous trait. We saw it. Deku was willing to blow out his arm to deliver the finishing blow. Miles was charging a big Venom move too, but those don't typically kill. He usually uses them to incapacitate. Deku's final smash, in contrast, was intended to end the fight decisively, and it did. The difference in endgame approach, Miles uses non-lethal takedowns while Deku goes nuclear if needed. That meant the finisher favored Deku. One could say Miles might hesitate to punch at full strength fearing lethal outcomes. Spider-Man often unconsciously pull their punches. In a death battle context, he'd overcome that, but it's worth noting Deku's mindset is, I will go beyond my limits even if I destroy myself, whereas Miles is, I'll try my flashiest move, but hope I don't die doing it. ChatGPT calculated that when both pull out the stops, Deku's all or nothing hits harder than Miles' all or nothing. Weaknesses exploited. Could Miles have exploited Deku's weaknesses better? Possibly, if he knew them. For instance, if Miles realized this guy injures himself when he amps up, he might try to force Deku into overexerting or aim his venom specifically at injured limbs to worsen them, but in a first-time fight, Miles wouldn't know that. Similarly, Deku might not know about Miles' tolerance to impacts due to the suit, but he would notice after a couple of hits that Miles isn't going down easily and adjust by hitting even harder or targeting Miles' head since vibranium suit protected his body mostly. Deku's observation skills would clue him in that Miles is getting slower after each big hit, so he'd keep that strategy. Meanwhile, Miles would notice Deku shaking out of his arm after a big smash and realize if I keep using those, he'll wreck himself. The trouble is, Deku can fire maybe 2 to 3 big shots before that happens, and if one of those land, Miles is done. In our scenario, the big shot landed before Miles could strategize around it. ChatGPT leans towards the idea that Deku's quick adaptability and overwhelming power would bring an end to the fight before Miles could formulate a new plan. Miles had a narrow window after venoming Deku, and Deku shut that window down fast. In the end, it came down to Deku's superior power and his counters to Miles' special abilities. Miles certainly had chances to win. If that Venom Blast had knocked Deku out, or if Miles avoided that final smash and kept the pressure, he could take it. He had the tools to potentially incapacitate Deku given the right conditions, but ChatGPT's verdict is that those conditions are less likely than Deku landing a decisive hit. Deku's arsenal and stats just stack up a bit higher. It's a close match, closer than many might initially think. Miles is no pushover, but after a thorough analysis, the AI calls it in favor of Izuku Midoriya. One could say Plus Ultra beat Beyond Amazing this time. The winner is Deku. Izuku Midoriya takes the victory according to ChatGPT's grand simulation, and it was pretty cool. In this battle of quirks versus spider powers, Deku goes beyond and Plus Ultras his way to a win. His combination of raw strength, diverse abilities, and sheer never give up attitude outlasted and overpowered Miles Morales. This battle was super close. I wanted Deku to win, but I had no idea how the battle was going to end up while reading that simulation. Deku just had the edge in the categories that counted. Miles certainly made him work for it, but in the end, one for all was too much for our Spider-Man to handle. Deku proved himself against the web-slinging hero from Brooklyn. That's our show, guys. What did you think? Did ChatGPT get it right, or are you yelling at your screen that Miles should have won? And if you think he should have won, how would he have won? This was an absolute blast to put together. Let me know in the comments. Do you agree with this outcome? Yes or no? Are you on Team Deku, Team Spidey all the way? If you have extra feats or arguments, please share them in the comments. I'll be reading and learning. Maybe there's a comic where Miles one punches the Hulk that I missed. If so, I might have to rerun the simulation through ChatGPT. Also, shout out to Death Battle for announcing this matchup. It got me super hyped. This is like the one that I care about the most. So it's cool to experiment and see what ChatGPT came out with as opposed to what they're gonna reveal in their episode. If you guys like this, I might make it a series. Have ChatGPT settle other debates. Heck, I might even do one with some classic battles, right? Goku versus Superman, Gojo versus Kakashi, Saitama versus Shaggy from Scooby-Doo. I'm playing, right? But before we sign off, I want to tease the next potential matchup we could throw into the AI arena. I've seen a lot of requests for Gojo from JJK versus Kakashi from Naruto. Battle of the Senseis. Should we make it happen? Let me know in the comments. Like this video if you liked it. It really helps us out. We're trying to grow. I'm Ben Kai. You guys are the real MVPs. Remember, go Plus Ultra, push past your limits. See y'all in the next video. Later.